Hi guys, my name is Fasi and I'm a certified expert coach, and I've tried every productivity and procrastination hack under the sun. Not just on myself but also with my coaching clients. And I've realized the trick is not to fight it or force it, but rather to work smarter. So I'll be sharing 8 productivity hacks that actually work, and some of them will genuinely surprise you. If you ever wish to go deeper than these 8 productivity hacks, I've encapsulated my entire coaching process to become a productivity machine. I like to call it yogic discipline, and you'll find the link in the description. Now, before we look at what actually works, let's look at some honorable failures. These hacks or these tools are suggested to beat procrastination, become more productive, but a lot of these don't work and some of them actually harm your productivity. So let's look at these. I don't really feel like wiping the drawing off. I did spend a good 5-10 minutes on it, but yeah, fuck it. The first one and the most famous one is the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule is based upon strong fundamental principles, being don't focus on the entire task, but rather small chunks of it which you can complete in 2 minutes, and that'll help you get started and get in momentum. But it doesn't really work. Think about it for a second. Everyone and their mother knows about 2-minute rule and talks about it. If it actually were that effective, shouldn't everyone be disciplined by this point? It does need The 2-minute rule does need a very crucial upgrade that is actually one of the hacks that I suggest in this video. We'll get to that in the second half of this video. The second tool that actually doesn't work, and I don't even feel like I should be saying this by this point, are timetables. Timetables just don't work. You've tried it multiple times and they don't work. They won't help you become more productive. Although again, there is one fundamental principle according to which you can organize your days, which will allow you to stick to difficult things and be more productive. The third tool which is suggested but doesn't actually work is clubbing dopamine. So combining activities that you like with the activities that you don't like. An example of this could be a lot of people listen to music while studying to make the studying fun, but it actually destroys your motivation for studying in this specific example. The reason being is, so let me share this study. There was this beautiful study done on children in kindergarten or something, and they loved painting. They absolutely loved it. So teachers asked the students to paint all the time, and they would just take out their brushes and get to it. But what the teachers slash researchers in this research started doing was they started giving the students a star on their hand or on their drawing sheet, either or, after the students completed with their drawing. And after a while, after doing this for a week or so, the researchers then stopped giving the students a star for drawing. And what happened because of this was the students started losing motivation for drawing or painting just because the researchers stopped giving them a star on the hand or on the sheet. An activity which they inherently loved doing, which they inherently enjoyed doing, they stopped enjoying because the external reward was taken away. So when you listen to music and study, you actually make just studying less enjoyable for you. So your motivation for studying in the long run reduces. Same goes with working out while listening to music. Same goes with, I don't know, listening to music while going for walks. The fourth hack that a lot of people do, but which again doesn't work, is chasing motivation. Motivation is good, I'm all for it, it's superb, it gets you moving, but relying on motivation for progress, for discipline, for being productive is not a reliable strategy, genuinely. Like, it's a feeling. You say, I feel motivated, I feel unmotivated, and feelings are transient. They come and they go. And if you depend upon something that is transient to be productive, your progress will be you'll have varied progress. It won't be consistent. That is exactly why a lot of people who depend on motivation as a crutch can't be consistent in the long run. The fifth one is self criticism. You probably think that acting like that drill sergeant in your head, being strict, being stringent, being harsh on yourself throughout your journey of on being disciplined, makes you more productive, makes you procrastinate less. But that can't be further away from the truth. Trust me, I'm a recovering self critique. And the final honorable failure, I'll be telling you after I share the 8 hacks that actually work. Two reasons primarily. A, it'll make more sense then, and B, it'll give me a good retention rate. So, yeah. The first hack is the alternative of the 2-minute rule, which is this question of how much can I do? The reason 2-minute rule doesn't work is because it's too tiny of an action to motivate us. Let me give you an example actually. So let's suppose I want to go and work out for an hour, but I don't feel like it. What I used to do earlier was I used to tell myself, can I go downstairs in the gym? My gym is just downstairs, and do one push-up. And that did help me a lot of the times because it was an insignificant action that I could do no matter how bad I'm feeling or no matter how much time I have. But what I started realizing was my mind used to tell me that firstly one push-up isn't gonna help you, and it started becoming very difficult for me to even start for that one push-up because I didn't feel like going to the gym for doing one push-up. Instead, what I realized was this question, how much can I do? It's part of a process called motivational interviewing, in which you motivate people by asking them questions. And this is it's actually more complex than that, but it's part of that process. And what this question does for me is, let's again take the same example. I want to go to the gym, but I don't feel like going. I'll ask myself, how much can I do here? So that gets me out of thinking about the entire 1 hour workout, which is also what 2-minute rule does. But an added benefit of this question is it gets me motivated. So in this example, let's say the answer that comes to my head is I can do one set of bench press. And that one set of bench press, I can see myself doing it because that answer came up to me organically. And my mind sees that if I do one set of bench press, it will actually help me progress on my journey to building a good physique. And that gets me feeling better about starting and to get my ass moving. And that is how this question, how much can I do, beats 2-minute rule any day of the week. The second hack that actually works instead of a timetable is dopamine loading. Let me ask you this. Have you ever scrolled for 4 hours in a row and not felt like doing anything but just lying on your bed? That is the principle behind dopamine loading, which says that you do the difficult things in your days first and do the pleasurable things in your days last. Here's what I mean by that. Your mind lives in comparison. So if as soon as you wake up, you open up your Instagram and scroll for 15-20 minutes, it gets a good it gets a good spike of dopamine. And this spike of dopamine, what this does is, anything you do after that would be most probably less pleasurable than the 15-20 minutes of scrolling. So your mind compares the two things and finds the next thing that you're going to do boring. So if you wanted to read a book or work for 4 hours, like do 4 hours of deep work, your mind already got the better alternative early in the morning. So it would find that 4 hours of deep work, A, not pleasurable, and B, excruciating. What I like to do is I like to avoid touching my phone till 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And until that 2 p.m., I get done with every difficult thing that I have to do in my day. So I get done with my workout, breath work, meditation, 4 hours of deep work. And yeah, that's basically it. So I get done with most of the difficult things that I have to get done with my day before I indulge into the pleasurable things. And then after 2 p.m., when I'm done with the difficult shit, I can really do anything. I can actually even enjoy the pleasurable things without the worry of the difficult things becoming excruciating or boring, or worst, me not even being able to do them. The next hack, which is the alternative of combining something that you enjoy doing with something that you don't enjoy doing, is this statement: this is good for me. If you like to become the kind of a person who likes to enjoy doing hard work, this statement will be key for you. And what this statement does for you is, whenever you're doing some hard work and something that you maybe don't like or maybe is painful, but you internally know that if you do this, it will be beneficial for you in the long run, just reminding yourself the fact that it is indeed good for me releases dopamine in your head. Let me give you an example. So let's say I'm making notes for my YouTube video, which is an excruciatingly boring task for me. But I know if I make these notes, it'll be good for me and it'll be easier for me to record these videos. So whenever I'm doing that, instead of combining it with music or something else that would make it pleasurable, I literally repeat it to myself. This, I just remind it to myself. It's not like I'm lying to myself. I remind myself that this is something that is good for me. This pain, this boring work is beneficial for me. And this makes the work innately pleasurable, inherently pleasurable. Hack 4 is having clear trigger plus steps. Let me ask you this: which one of these two statements are you more likely to act on and actualize? The first one being, I'll exercise tomorrow. And the second one being, I'll do 15 minutes of jogging at 8 a.m. in the morning tomorrow. And I can bet that you are more likely to act upon the second one. The reason being is, it said that vagueness is the enemy of change. And when you want to change stuff in your life, you need to be as specific and as concrete as possible. Which is what the fourth hack is all about. Setting up a specific trigger and clear steps that you need to take to do an activity that would be productive. So very recently, last week actually, a client of mine, I was allotting him some tasking, something to do in between the sessions every day, and we were narrowing in on a type of journaling. And we had narrowed down to two options. But we were still confused. We couldn't fix upon one. So he asked me, like, what do you think? Should I just try both of them out for some time and then pick the one that suits me better? To which I immediately say, nope, that's not happening, because again, vagueness is the enemy of change. And when we discuss the tasking, when I allot the tasking, I try to make it as concrete and as specific as possible. So whenever you're trying to be more productive, see if you can be as specific as possible with the trigger and the exact steps you need to take. Trigger is an event or a behavior or maybe a time of the day that you want to do that specific activity. And the steps is the exact concrete steps that you need to take. So instead of saying, I will study tomorrow, a better way of framing it to yourself, or maybe as setting it as a goal in your diary, would be, I'll study tomorrow, I'll read 12 pages of XYZ book at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The fifth hack that actually works is boredom. Let me give you a very fun scenario. Let's say you're part of a research, and as a part of that research, you're locked up in a room and there's nothing in that room. You just have access to two things: one, your phone, and two, the most boring ass book in the world. And the researchers tell you to do whatever for the next 15 minutes. What would you do? Would you even think about looking at that book? No, you just take up your phone, you would scroll, text people, or do whatever. You just use your phone for the next 15 minutes. But after those 15 minutes end, the researchers come in and they take away your phone. And they tell you the same thing: do whatever for the next 15 minutes. Now what would you do? You'd probably pace around that room for 2 minutes, 5 minutes. But after that, I'm pretty sure, I'm willing to bet you'll get bored and then you'll pick up that boring ass book and start reading it. And that is exactly how I use boredom to become more productive. Whenever I am doing something that I don't want to do, let's say I am reading a book that I don't want to read, but I know it'll be good for me, the only alternative to reading I would keep for myself is absolute and utter boredom. So if I don't read that book, I have to sit on my ass and do nothing. And let's say I stop reading and sit on my ass for and do nothing. After I could sit for 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but after that my mind goes, yeah, boring. Yeah, the book was a much better option because the unpleasantness of boredom starts to kick in. And when that happens, I just go back to studying, like reading the book again, and that helps me be more productive. But if instead I picked up my phone when I, like, let's say I'm reading the book and I picked up my phone instead and started watching YouTube videos, it would now become impossible for me to go back to the book because my mind got the better alternative. It's the same logic as dopamine loading, but you can do this any time of the day. The sixth one is surprisingly journaling. Psychologists now agree, and there's a lot of researchers around this, that procrastination is actually not a problem of laziness or time management. That is why timetables won't work. It's a problem of managing your emotions. It's an emotion you're trying to avoid in the future by avoiding an activity. So if you fear failing on an exam and you would feel that fear of failure, if you don't study, you can at least justify yourself, yeah, I'm not a failure, it's just that I didn't study. That's the crux of procrastination. And there's a very specific type of journaling which I like to call brain dump, which allows you to release that emotion. So let's say you want to sit for deep work for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours of deep work, and there's something bothering you, there's some resistance around us. What I suggested one of my client is, grab a pen and paper and just go ham with whatever is going on in your mind, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, without any filter. So just vomiting whatever comes up without giving it a second thought. And you do that for as long as you want until your hands stop. And after you do that, you feel much lighter. And when you have all that crap out of your mind, out of your body, now you can focus. And now, when that emotional charge is released to a good extent, you're able to be more productive. The seventh hack is self compassion. There was a study in which the procrastination behavior of college students was observed, and the students who procrastinated on their first exam and were self critical, self judgmental, they beat themselves up, acted like there was this drill sergeant in their head. They were much more likely to procrastinate on the final exams as well, as opposed to the students who procrastinated but were kind and self compassionate. And this goes against most of conventional thinking, and it's counterintuitive actually. So if I'm being kind to myself, if I fail, am I not more likely to fail? But the reason this actually works is, when you fail and you experience and you criticize yourself, you feel the emotion of shame and guilt. And this emotion of shame and guilt, it makes it painful for you to analyze your setback, look at it even, and learn from your mistakes. And if you don't learn from your mistakes, you are much more likely to make the same mistakes. Self compassion, on the other hand, helps you pacify that shame and guilt around. And when there is no guilt and when there is no shame around your setback, it isn't painful to look at them. And when it isn't painful to look at them, you can analyze what mistakes you made, you can learn from them, and you can be better. And self criticism for me was a big one. I used to criticize myself very harshly and all the time. But as soon as I started being more compassionate, more kind, everything just changed. My resilience, my consistency just went through the roof. And then finally, the eighth step I'll combine with the dishonorable mention, which is actually trying everything at once. This is not the hack that works, this is something that does not work. When you come across some good hacks, it's very exciting and you want to try out everything. I can remember reading some good books on being disciplined, beating procrastination, and other topics, and I just wanted to try everything at once. But what this does is it diverts your attention. So let's say you want to burn a sheet of paper, there's sunlight, and you have a magnifying glass. How do you burn that sheet of paper? Do you burn that sheet of paper by moving around the magnifying glass continuously? Or do you keep that magnifying glass laser focused at a spot until that spot heats up and the paper burns? That is exactly how you bring about change in your life as well. Let's say you like these hacks and you resonated with them and you'd like to apply literally all of them in your life. I would not suggest you go start applying all of them starting tomorrow. What I would suggest is instead pick any one that you resonated with the most, laser focus on it until it becomes second nature for you, until it becomes an unconscious habit. And when that becomes an unconscious habit, which is pushing you ahead without conscious effort or will, then you can pick another hack or another tool. And then again, laser focus on that until that become unconscious and you embody it. That is exactly the way I suggest my coaching clients to make change in their life as well. Now, if you've reached till here, that means you're quite serious. And if you're curious about how I can help you become productive and be disciplined through my framework, which I called Yogic Discipline, schedule a free strategy call with me below this video, and we'll go in much more detail about your specific situation with the exact steps to get you out of it. And these were just 8 of the dozens of concrete steps I share in this video. So if you'd like to beat procrastination once and for all, this is my entire coaching process for free. You can click here.